For centuries, Saturn was only a distant jewel, a golden eye floating in the cold dark beyond Jupiter. Even through the most powerful telescopes, it seemed peaceful, symmetrical, almost divine, a planet wrapped in perfection. But what we saw from Earth was only the surface of mystery. The truth was more dynamic, more violent, and far more beautiful than anyone imagined. To truly know Saturn, we would have to go there. And in 1997, humanity tried. Scene 2. The Journey of Cassini. The Cassini spacecraft was a masterpiece of precision and patience. Launched from Earth on October 15, 1997, it carried the hopes of hundreds of scientists and the curiosity of millions of dreamers. Its mission? To study Saturn, its moons and its rings in greater detail than any mission before. But the journey would not be easy. To reach Saturn, Cassini had to slingshot past Venus twice, then swing by Earth, and finally Jupiter, gathering speed with every turn. 7 years later, on July 1, 2004, after 3.5 billion kilometers, Cassini arrived, and Saturn welcomed it like a slow sunrise. Scene 3. The first glimpse. When Cassini entered Saturn's orbit, the first images it sent home stunned the world. The planet was alive, storms swirling across its atmosphere like painted waves, rings so thin they seemed unreal, and moons dancing in gravitational rhythm. It was a moving system, a celestial orchestra conducted by gravity and light. Over the next 13 years, Cassini would orbit Saturn more than 290 times, taking hundreds of thousands of photographs. Each one revealed a layer of complexity that transformed the planet from myth into reality. Scene 4. The Rings of Fire and Ice. Saturn's rings are not solid. They are composed of billions of icy particles, each one reflecting sunlight like powdered diamonds. From a distance, they appear flawless. Up close, they are chaotic, streams of ice shards colliding, merging, and breaking apart again. Cassini flew straight through these regions, mapping their density, structure, and even their music, the vibrations caused by Saturn's own gravity. It discovered that the rings aren't just decoration. They are a dynamic system, a bridge between the formation of moons and the death of others. Some parts of the rings are ancient, older than the planet itself. Others are young, born from shattered moons or captured comets. Every orbit, every shadow cast across them was a glimpse into time itself. When you look at Saturn's rings, you are seeing both creation and destruction, frozen in balance. Scene 5. The Moons that Defy Imagination. Cassini found a family around Saturn, a collection of more than 80 moons, each one unique, each one strange. Titan, the largest, is wrapped in a thick orange haze. It has rivers, lakes, and seas, not of water, but of liquid methane and ethane. Cassini dropped a small probe called Huygens through that hazy atmosphere. It descended for 2 hours, tasting air and light never touched by Earth. When it landed, it sent back the first ever images from the surface of a moon beyond our own. The world it revealed was haunting: smooth pebbles, frozen rivers, and a dim orange sky that never clears. It looked alien, but eerily familiar, like a reflection of our own planet's distant past. Then came Enceladus, a tiny moon no wider than Arizona, gleaming white like a shard of glass. From its south pole, Cassini witnessed something incredible. Plumes of water vapor and ice erupting hundreds of kilometers into space. Through those geysers, the spacecraft flew. Its instruments detected salts, organics, and heat, signs of a global ocean beneath the icy crust. That meant Enceladus, a world smaller than the British Isles, had everything needed for life. Liquid water, organic molecules, and energy from hydrothermal vents deep below the surface. In one moment, the search for life in the solar system expanded beyond Mars. Narrator. Cassini was not just taking pictures. It was rewriting the map of possibility. Scene 8. The storms of Saturn. The planet itself was no less dramatic. Cassini captured storms larger than Earth, with winds reaching 1,800 kilometers per hour. At the planet's north pole, it discovered something no one expected: a massive storm shaped like a perfect hexagon. For decades, scientists had seen hints of this strange pattern, but Cassini revealed its depth and motion in detail. A jet stream of unimaginable size, 6 sides of whirling gas rotating endlessly around a silent center. The shape was no illusion, it was real, and it moved with hypnotic precision, as though mathematics itself had taken physical form. Scene 8. The passing of time. Year after year, Cassini continued to orbit, collecting data, mapping moons, and transmitting beauty back to Earth. It watched as Saturn's seasons changed, as sunlight shifted across the rings and shadows stretched and retreated. It became more than a machine. It became an observer, a witness to time itself. Every transmission was a postcard from the edge of sunlight. But all missions must one day end. And for Cassini, that ending was written from the very beginning. Scene 9. The grand finale. By 2017, Cassini was running out of fuel, but instead of simply drifting away, NASA decided to give it one final mission, the grand finale. For months, Cassini dove between Saturn and its rings, a gap only a few thousand kilometers wide. No spacecraft had ever flown there before. It was the most dangerous, most daring part of the mission. From this vantage, Cassini sent back its most breathtaking images: ribbons of atmosphere, delicate waves in the rings, and the faint, ghostly light of Saturn's auroras. Each image was sharper, deeper, and more haunting than the last. It was as if Saturn itself was revealing its final secrets to the probe that had watched it for 13 years. And then came the moment when Cassini turned its camera one last time toward home. A tiny dot of light. Earth. We were just a pixel, suspended in the golden glow of Saturn's rings. That single image was not a goodbye. It was a reminder that even from 1 billion miles away, we are still connected by light.
In Part 1, we journeyed with Cassini through 13 years around Saturn, discovering Titan's methane seas, Enceladus's hidden ocean, and the breathtaking geometry of the planet's rings and storms. Now, Cassini's fuel runs low. Its mission nears its end. But instead of fading quietly, it will choose to go out in motion, a final act of courage and discovery. Scene 1. The plan for a beautiful end. By 2017, Cassini had completed nearly every task its mission demanded. It had orbited Saturn more than 290 times, captured over 400,000 images, and transformed our understanding of the outer solar system. But one problem remained. Cassini was running out of propellant, the fuel needed to adjust its orbit. Without it, there was a risk that the spacecraft could one day crash into one of Saturn's moons, especially Enceladus or Titan, worlds that might host life, and NASA could not allow that. So they designed a farewell unlike any other, a final sequence of orbits that would end with Cassini diving into Saturn itself. They called it the grand finale. It would be both a sacrifice and a revelation. Cassini would die exploring. Scene 2. Diving between the rings. Starting in April 2017, Cassini began its final set of orbits, a series of 22 dives between Saturn's rings and the planet's upper atmosphere. No spacecraft had ever dared to go there. It was a region of turbulence and radiation, a place where particles moved like storms of invisible glass. Each pass was both danger and discovery. Cassini measured the density of ring particles, tasted the upper atmosphere, and mapped the gravity fields that tied the planet to its rings. What it found stunned scientists. The rings were shedding material, slowly raining down into Saturn's atmosphere. That meant one day, in perhaps 100 million years, the rings might vanish entirely. Saturn would be bare again, a world once adorned, now plain. And Cassini was the first to witness its slow undoing. Scene 3. The rings up close. The images from these final orbits were unlike anything seen before. Instead of distant arcs of light, Cassini showed the rings as oceans of detail, billions of tiny ice worlds, each orbiting like miniature moons. Some ring particles were as small as dust, others as large as mountains. Cassini's cameras captured waves rippling across them, caused by the gravitational pull of Saturn's moons. It was like watching music made visible. When sunlight passed through the rings, they glowed with an almost sacred brilliance. Translucent sheets of gold and silver, casting shadows across the planet below. These were not just photographs. They were the closing verses of a long poem, written in light and distance. Scene 4. The farewell begins. In September 2017, Cassini's orbit was adjusted one last time. Its new trajectory aimed straight into Saturn. Mission Control at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory knew exactly what would happen, but that didn't make it easier. The spacecraft that had survived for 20 years, traveled billions of miles, and rewritten the story of Saturn, was about to be destroyed. Engineers called this final transmission the goodbye sequence. Every system, every instrument was programmed to keep collecting data until the very last second. No autopilot, no second chance. Just one continuous stream of science as it fell into the gas giant below. Scene 5. The final morning on Earth. On September 15, 2017, a crowd gathered in the dark control room at JPL. It was early morning in California, just before dawn. Cassini was already thousands of kilometers above Saturn, plunging toward the clouds at 120,000 kilometers per hour. At that moment, The spacecraft was nearly 1.5 billion kilometers away, too far for real-time contact. Everything the team saw on their screens was already 83 minutes old, the time it took Cassini's signal to cross the void. They couldn't steer it. They couldn't save it. They could only listen. Cassini's voice reached Earth in waves, a faint rhythmic tone carried through the deep space network. It was the sound of knowledge being born and fading at the same time. As Cassini entered Saturn's upper atmosphere, its instruments went into overdrive. The probe sampled the gases directly, measuring hydrogen, helium, and the faint trace of other elements. Wind speeds climbed past 1,500 kilometers per hour. Temperatures began to soar. The spacecraft fought to keep its antenna pointed toward Earth, stabilized by its thrusters. But the pressure built too fast. The atmosphere thickened. Then, the thrusters began to fail. The signal started to waver, and at 5:55 a.m. Pacific Time, the final transmission ended. Cassini was gone. Scene 7. The room that fell silent. Inside Mission Control, no one spoke for a moment. Engineers and scientists who had devoted half their careers to Cassini simply sat, listening to the absence of sound. Some smiled, some cried, some whispered, "Thank you." Because even in loss, there was triumph. Cassini had fulfilled every objective. It had ended its life as it had lived it, collecting data, teaching us something new, even in its final breath. Narrator. It was the first spacecraft to dive into Saturn, and the last to see its clouds up close. It didn't crash. It became part of the world it studied.
Cassini had journeyed for 20 years, 7 through the void to reach Saturn, and 13 orbiting the planet, sending home revelations that reshaped our understanding of the solar system. In its final moments, it plunged into the very world it had studied, its signal fading into silence, its mission complete. But what Cassini left behind was more than data. It was meaning. Scene 1. The Legacy of Light. After Cassini's end, the images it sent continued to arrive. Photons captured billions of kilometers away, each one carrying a fragment of Saturn's story. Scientists spent years analyzing the final data, the structure of the rings, the temperature gradients in Saturn's atmosphere, the chemical fingerprints of its moons. Every frame, every line of code was a window into the mechanics of beauty. From those images, a new Saturn emerged, not as a distant ornament in the solar system, but as a living, breathing ecosystem of motion. Cassini taught us that even in the emptiest parts of space, there's rhythm, there's harmony, and there's life, not always biological, but mechanical, physical, and poetic. Scene 2. What we learned about Saturn. Cassini's instruments revealed that Saturn's magnetic field is unlike any other. Its axis aligns perfectly with its rotation, a mystery that challenges every existing theory of how planetary dynamos work. It discovered lightning storms so large they encircled the planet, lasting for months at a time. It watched the planet's seasons unfold, clouds shifting color, rings brightening and fading with the angle of sunlight. And it revealed that Saturn's rings, as eternal as they appear, are slowly disappearing. Particles spiral downward, falling into the atmosphere like rain made of diamonds and dust. Cassini showed us that nothing in the universe is truly permanent, not even beauty. Everything changes, even Saturn, even us. Scene 3. The moons, a universe of their own. Cassini turned Saturn's moons from dots of light to worlds. Titan, with its methane rivers and icy mountains, now stands as a laboratory for understanding prebiotic chemistry, a world where the ingredients for life might already be waiting beneath its frozen lakes. Enceladus, with its shimmering plumes of salt water, is perhaps the most promising candidate for life beyond Earth. Its ocean, hidden, pressurized, heated by the moon's core, could mirror the same conditions that once birthed life in our own seas. And then there are the lesser moons, Mimas, Dione, Rhea, Iapetus, each with its own scars, colors, and mysteries. Cassini revealed that every moon, no matter how small, has a story written in ice and stone. Scene 4. Seeing beauty as knowledge. In Cassini's images, Saturn is not just a planet, it's an emotion. The delicate shadows of the rings, the storms swirling across pale gold clouds, the reflections of sunlight off Titan's lakes. They remind us that science and art are not separate. They are both ways of seeing truth. Cassini's final images stunned us not only because of what they showed, but because of what they made us feel. A sense of peace, a sense of scale, a sense that the universe is vast, but not indifferent. Scene 5. The pale blue dot revisited. Among Cassini's final photographs was a view of Saturn's rings lit from behind, and in one tiny gap between them, a speck of blue. Earth. A pixel smaller than a grain of sand. All of human history, all of love and war, seen through the rings of another world. That image, like Voyager's before it, was a mirror. It reminded us that we are travelers, born on a small world, but capable of reaching the stars. Cassini did not just explore Saturn, it explored our perspective. It showed us that distance does not divide meaning, that the farther we go, the closer we come to understanding ourselves. Scene 6. What it means to explore. Exploration has always been a paradox, a mix of risk and reward, of loss and discovery. Cassini's story captures that balance perfectly. It began as a machine built by human hands, but it ended as something more, a symbol of curiosity that outlasted its creators. Its mission reminds us that knowledge often requires sacrifice, and that the pursuit of truth is its own kind of beauty. We built a machine, and through it, the universe looked back. Scene 7. The continuation of wonder. Cassini's legacy didn't end with its fall. Its discoveries now guide new missions. The Dragonfly rotorcraft, soon to fly across Titan's methane plains. Future probes to Enceladus, searching for life in its hidden ocean. And telescopes on Earth and beyond, continuing to study the world it left behind. Every one of them carries a piece of Cassini's spirit, that balance of precision and poetry, of courage and curiosity. Scene 8. The meaning of the final images. The final images of Saturn are still studied today. They are not just records of a dying spacecraft. They are art painted in wavelengths invisible to human eyes. They show us that exploration isn't about finding answers. It's about asking better questions. Each orbit, each transmission, was a reminder that the universe is not empty. It's waiting. Narrator. Cassini's final act was not destruction.